What do you say we see if we can finish up this little gas forge? I spent some time yesterday and I cut out some of the sheet metal parts. So let's put what we have so far back together and show you the sheet metal parts. Got the fiber board in the bottom of the forge to help insulate the hard fire brick base. I have two spacers just to add some height to my soft fire brick sides. And then I will have two soft fire bricks that will go on the top. And this is all the forge chamber there is. It's just a very small forge. And we'll have the shorty burner from Hybrid Burners will go up there. So I have two pieces cut that will be the end panels that the doors go up against. And that's how those are going to go in. And there's one for the back door as well. And I have two sides that will go in here. I have to make sure they're facing the right direction. I think it matters. And then I have a top. And this top will get a collar that will have set screws that the burner will go into. So I need to go weld some of this together. And again, we're not going to go spend video time watching me weld. So I'm going to put the collar in the top plate and weld it up to the sides and make sure all that fits before I put the end panels on. And I'll probably just tack weld all of it just to be sure. Then I'll weld it all up. And then we'll be ready to fit the burner to the bricks. Okay, this is all tack welded together. It's a snug fit, but it does fit, and it goes all the way down to the fiber board on the bottom, which is what I want. Leaves me a gap for some K-wool at the top and around the sides. I think we're ready to weld the whole thing up. Now before I assemble this again, I'm going to put a center mark and get it to show on my top bricks. These can slide side to side because there's allowance for that K-wool wrapper, and I need to be able to make sure they're centered when I drill the hole. I also have a piece of plywood underneath them that will take up the space the K-wool will eventually take up, and allows me something to drill through without breaking the bricks out. These bricks would be fragile enough I'd probably chip the bottom and it'd be a real ugly hole when it comes out. This thing's still hot from welding, so put some gloves back on. Well, it fit before. It's a tight fit, that's for sure. Okay, so that's all down in there. My center mark is pretty close to center. There we go. So I can sight right down here and see that my center mark is good. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to drill down in here so that my burner nozzle goes down into the brick, but not all the way through. I'll need a hole all the way through, but I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And I just happen to have a hole saw that's exactly the inside diameter of this pipe. I didn't plan any of that, I just got lucky. I don't want to go too deep, so I measure down to where the brick is. I compare that to my hole saw, and I know that's the surface of the brick is right here. And I want to go about halfway through, so that's going to be right here where the collar on the drill chuck runs. And that soft fire brick drill's really easy. Now I have a hole saw that is pretty much exactly the same as the inside diameter. It's ever so slightly larger than the inside diameter of the burner, but not by much. And because I now have a nice pilot hole, I can put the pilot bit for the hole saw in the same hole, and I should get a perfectly concentric hole, and I've got that plywood to support it so it doesn't blow out. Unfortunately, I'm going to run out of room before I get through there, so I'm going to have to take everything apart. So I took the shell off, and I can come back in here and very gently drill this out. And into the plywood. See if I'm all the way through or not, and I am. So let me show you what we have here. I clamp those together to keep the bricks together. You got to be gentle with these soft bricks. They will fall apart. So I've done all this right. This burner will fit down in there, but it won't go all the way through, and that is just what I want. And that's what it'll look like inside. Seems like lots of taking it apart and putting it back together again. But I think we'll be able to get it all together this time, and the only reason to take apart again is going to be to possibly paint it. So there's all my fire brick. Now, pardon me, I've got a dust mask on, so you might not be able to hear me very well. I'm just going to wrap that with K.O. wool like that. I want to find my hole here. And cut that out. Make sure the burner goes in without any K.O. wool getting down in the way, and that's going to work just fine. And let's see if we can put this over there with the K.O. wool on it. This is going to make it just a little bit more complicated, of course. It's a tight fit. But it is all the way down. There we go. So the last thing to install is this fire brick that makes the apron, and it just sits in there, and that seals up the last of the fiberboard around the front. I don't know if I'll like those in the long run or not, but right now it seems like a good idea. So I'm going to set my burner in there, and I've got these 3 screws that I can adjust to get the burner in just right. You want it straight up and down. Well, there is our brick-lined mini forge. It has a forge chamber of about 3 inches high, 4 inches wide, 9 inches long. It's a little bit bigger than that because the bricks are not exact size. But it should be a good little forge. The burner goes down in there quite a ways by the time you make up for the KO and everything else, but it does not go all the way into the forge chamber, and that's exactly what I was hoping for. So I think we're going to be in good shape there. Anyways, I think I'll grind some welds. I'll put a coat of paint on it at some point, and hopefully this will be a good addition to the shop. I hope you found that video interesting. Hope you can give it a thumbs up. Love it if you hit that what? Oh, you want to light it? Oh, okay. Well, we'll do that then. Luckily, I have a valve and a regulator that I can borrow off of another forge, and we'll throw a match at this thing, or torch. Now, before you light a forge, check it for leaks. Anytime you put a forge in or out of service, and really you should do it every day or even twice a day, you should make sure you don't have any leaks. One good way to do that is to spray it with a little bit of soapy water and look for bubbles with gas pressure on all the fittings. And another way you can do that, a very simple and quick method, but doesn't tell you where the leak is if you have one, simply close the valve on the forge, open the pressure line, either the valve on the tank, or in my case I open the valve on the wall, and I pressurize the line. Maybe even turn the pressure up a little bit, and then turn that valve back off and walk away and leave it for a while. If you come back and there's no pressure on your gauge anymore, it leaked. If you come back and it's still the same pressure, it didn't leak. So that's a quick, easy way to take a look at it. But the soapy bubbles will tell you where the leak is if you have a leak. So I'm comfortable I don't have any leaks. I've already checked this before we started this part of the video. But it is important that you do that. So let's start the forge. For a forge like this, we need to open the choke a little bit. And you just have to experiment with how much to open the choke once it's up to heat. There it is, lit. It's not as loud as the chili forge, but it's not as big. It's got a pretty good flame. So far I call that a success. I'm going to give it about 5 minutes, and then we're going to see how hot it gets, see if it is up to forging temperature at that point or if it's going to need to go longer. As suspected, this little forge will take longer to heat up than one that's just lined with something like KO. But I kind of figured that would be the case, and it doesn't really bother me. I just have to start it before I'm ready for it. So in less than 10 minutes, we have our first suitable forging heat, and that's not bad for what this forge is. Yeah, that's plenty hot. I think I'm going to be real happy with that forge as a lower heat forge and non-forge welding forge. It will do a lot of the day in and day out work that simply doesn't require super high heats. And it might get there. After that brick is heated up, it's going to do a lot better. It just takes a lot longer to heat the brick up in a brick forge. So we'll find out as we use it, and I'll give you an update on it after I've let it run for an hour or so in a typical day's worth of work, and we'll see just how good it really performs. But the brick will also hold the heat better, so that means as you cycle things in and out, it's not going to cool down as badly as a forge with lighter insulation in it. So that's one of those trade-off things that I had mentioned earlier. I think the burner is a very good burner. I'm going to do a few more little adjustments and tweaks to get everything to run just the best that I can. But that's pretty much right out of the box the way it's set up right now. And you can move the gas nozzle up and down. You can play with the choke, try to figure out where the sweet spot of the choke is, what the gas pressure is. The instructions that come with it are 3 to 5 psi, and we were running at about 5 psi. Once it's up to heat, might be able to turn it down to 3, and that'll be pretty nice for an aspirated burner to use that low of pressure. So that makes it a little bit quieter. It doesn't have the dragon's breath some other forges have. That's that flame front that shoots out the front of the forge. Just all in all, I think it's going to be a lot more pleasant to be around than the big forge. But that doesn't mean I don't like the chili forge. It's still going to be my go-to forge for big work, production work, and of course forge welding, because I do a lot of that stuff. So both of them are going to get used. You'll see this one in a lot of the videos where we just don't need the chili forge. When you shut down a forge like this, make sure you close the choke so it doesn't chimney hot air up to the burner parts. That'll make your burner last a lot longer if you close that choke every time. But also make sure you open the choke every time before you light it, or it just puts out nothing but gas with no air, and that fills your shop with smoke. Why didn't I just build a burner? Well, I didn't build a burner because I've built burners in the past, and they never work quite as efficiently as the ones other people build. And the big reason for that is just precision. You really need to think like a machinist and build burners to machinist tolerances to have the best precision. My burners always worked. I've made burners out of plumbing parts and they work okay, but they use a lot more gas and they don't produce the flame that a good quality burner would produce, and that's because the jet isn't perfectly aligned and isn't perfectly tuned, and there's lots of little things in there that the people that make burners for a living have figured out. And it's worth my money to buy a good burner. I don't have to fiddle with it. The amount of money that I pay for a burner, I can make in product that I make and sell to my customers in less time than it takes me to make the burner. If this forge had been available as a finished forge to get what I wanted, I would have bought the forge, because I do find that paying other people to do what they do best is better than me tinkering around with some of these things, and it allows me to stay in the shop and make forged items, which is what I do best. I'm not a fabricator, I'm not a burner maker, I'm not a forge designer, I'm a blacksmith. So if I can buy this stuff, I consider that I'm better off and I get a better product in the long run. If you're a hobbyist and you have more time than money, then building this stuff is great, but do your homework, do your research. Make sure you don't blow yourself up or burn the house down. It's just not worth it. Anyways, this time I'm serious. I hope you liked the video. I'd love it if you'd hit that subscribe button down there. Stick around, watch some of the other videos, share the videos with your friends. Remember, working with propane and natural gas is dangerous. Make sure you know what you're doing, or get somebody that does know what they're doing to help. This video is not meant to be a tutorial. It's just a look at what I decided to build for my shop. Lots of other forge designs out there. Do your homework, do your research. If you enjoy the videos and would like to provide financial support for the effort here on YouTube, there's a link down in the description for PayPal and another link for Patreon, and you may make donations through either one of those sources. There's no obligation. The content is free and it will remain free. Those are simply donations if you choose to do so. I hope you have time to get out to your shop today. I hope you can make something. Enjoy your time in the shop. Challenge yourself a little bit, but do stay safe. Do wear your safety glasses, and we'll see you for the next one.